no one was telling me like, this is what you have to do. Like, you can create whatever you want. If it doesn't work out, no one's going to be like, pressuring you to come up with a new idea. Like, it's just fun. I was like, okay, what is that going to lead to? It was very unclear. And when I left my job too, I did decide to take that route. And I didn't really know what was going to happen. Just, all right, I'll figure it out. And honestly, I can't imagine like what it would be like not to have gone for it. And it's not to say that like working in a corporate job or working like at a day job, like you have to give up all your creative passions and stuff like that. But I think at some point, if you do have that feeling, like you want to know what that door is, you want to open that door. And if whether it works out or it turns into something else, like there was no questions left on the table. And it turned into so many things that I couldn't have imagined. I think if you have any of that like curiosity or spark in you, listen to it. That's all I can really say is like really, really listen to it. And like the people that truly are like wanting to explore that, like you will then. Like I think that's just the thing. It's like if you have that, then you have it.
We live in a complex and ever-changing world, a place that is maybe harder than ever to successfully navigate. The answer is surely to be brave, but it's also to seek and be open to guidance. Mentors are the one consistent through line in the lives of all accomplished people, myself included. So welcome to Mentor Buffet, a feast for those, like me, curious about who helped the most successful among us succeed. My guest today is Nicole McLaughlin. Nicole is someone who I've admired for a really long time. She's a designer, an upcyclist, and her track did not start where she is today. Nicole was working in companies that were making athletic and design wear, but she was spending her nights making her own personal projects, and that's where she found mentorship in podcasts and where she developed some of her artistic principles that we talk about today, like spending time alone, like giving yourself the space and privacy to create and discover, which I think is really, really special. And also the fear that we all have when we are stepping off the common track and paving our own path, and the feeling that tells us to bet on ourselves and to take that curious path. The most special thing about the conversation today was how aligned I felt with Nicole and how seen I feel like we were for each other in talking about what it really takes to chase a big dream, both practically and mentally, like what it is to believe in yourself. And I felt like I made a real friend today. And I also learned a lot from her about the types of questions she asks herself and also the standards she holds herself to as she paves her own path. She doesn't pay attention to comments and she puts out her work that pleases herself. And I think that's a really good reminder for me, for everybody. Nicole didn't have like a typical mentor-mentee situation, which I think is really relatable. And instead, she found inspiration in other artists, in friends, in podcasts, and also she's her own muse. She tests all of her own work and makes her work by herself. Another thing we talk about today is balancing your artistic integrity with your artistic career, which is so important for all of us as we pursue the arts, and the commonalities between arts and sports. This is a really special conversation. You're going to hang on to every word. I hope you learn a lot and feel empowered to chase your own dreams. Here's my conversation with Nicole McLaughlin.
I think that's like a very conscious thing that I do is like I love to take objects that people are very familiar with and then like change it in a way that's like, oh, why I wouldn't have thought to do that, or like, oh, I recognize that thing, or I have that. That's like my favorite thing is like when someone has like a specific thing in their house, they look at it every day or they use it every day. Like I have used like carrot peelers, or it's like you're cooking, you're just using this thing and like that's what its purpose is. And you put it back in the drawer, that's where it lives. And then I made a high heel out of it. And like, to me, I was like, oh, it's the perfect shape, like size and shape of a high heel. Like 3 inches is always a great like measurement for me. And I was like, perfect. I could fit it on a heel and then I can walk around with it and then I can like peel my carrot with it and keep going. And like, I don't know, I love being able to change people's minds of like how they see the things that they interact with on their daily lives.
Do you feel like it's waking people up?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. I think like any of the feedback I get is usually like, oh, like I never thought to do that, but like now I can see things like a little bit differently. Or a lot of people that make stuff and send me like pictures of like their projects that they've made and say that it was inspired by something I've made. And that's when I feel like, okay, maybe it's resonating and people see it. And because obviously I know people are seeing it because I'm posting it, but it's also like, but are they seeing it, you know?
Yeah.
Are they just like looking at my projects and like enjoying it for the visuals, or are they then going to like their daily lives and like paying a little bit more attention and like being more resourceful? I think that's the word I use so much with like my work is like resourcefulness, because I've used the same same materials, but I've also used the same like ideas again and again and again. I always find different ways to do it. And so I think like people give up so quickly on like an idea or like a thought or whatever. And it's like, be resourceful, use what you have, use it again and keep using it until like, you know, I don't know, there's endless ideas.
I'm interested in this like idea that people give up too quickly.
Oh yeah, big time. People give up really like so quickly.
Tell me more.
I felt that way too, where it's like you get frustrated because you feel like you don't have, especially within designs, like I have to have the right sewing machine, or I don't know how to sew, so I can't make this thing, or I'm not very good at drawing, so like I'm not going to be able to convey an idea. There's always a different way to like, even if drawing's not my strong suit, and I don't really draw unless I truly have to, I have found other ways to be able to communicate my ideas. And so you have to just like keep leaning into what you are good at. And also if you just keep doing it, like you're gonna get better at it. You have to get better at it, or you find different ways and different methods. And I always think about like projects that I've given up on, and it's like I never truly gave up on them. I maybe tabled them. I have like a bin in my studio of like it's graveyard projects, and I never like threw them away or anything because I was always like, maybe I'll come back to it. And a lot of times I do, and it's like now I have the right skill set or the sewing machine or whatever, those things that I thought I needed back then, I was able to like take my time with it and come back at a different perspective, I guess. But we give up on ideas too quickly. I think people like, they do one idea one time and they think that's like, okay, I can't do it again. I'm like, no, the next time you do it, it's going to be better. Like the next time, if you keep doing the same idea, but like changing it, like you're going to reach a different audience, or you're going to like understand it better the more you do it.
Mm-hmm. That's such an abundant mindset, because I feel like people mostly want to know that something was definitely impossible because it makes them more comfortable with themselves.
They want to give up. They want to give up. Yeah. Like something inside of them is telling them to give up. I'm like, don't listen.
I don't even know if they want to give up so much as they want to feel that there is no other option.
Yeah. Why does that happen?
Like they're comfortable feeling correct and feeling like oriented with the world. And so if they decide, or they think this was impossible, or this is not worth pursuing because it's not going anywhere, even if that's not true, because in your hypothesis it's not true, there's always another way. For them, they feel more like stable and comfortable, or for all of us, being right, even if right is not true. And I saw it in 95% of my teammates who didn't make it to the Olympics because they wanted to believe that it was not possible for them, because if it was possible, then they have no excuse but to do the work. And the work is painful and it's scary because it's uncertain. It still doesn't mean they're going to get it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people want to give up. I don't think they want to give up. I think they want to feel comfortable, and it's easier to feel comfortable giving up because the process is uncomfortable, right?
For sure.
Or do you find it uncomfortable?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's uncomfortable. It's vulnerable. Like, no matter what you're doing, whether it's art or sports or whatever, like, you're really putting yourself out there every time. And like you said, it's like, if you're really like trying your best and it doesn't work out,
yeah,
I think that's where you get so down on yourself. And that's when you come back the second time, maybe you don't give the same amount because you're afraid that's going to happen again. And I think that's when you have to give more. And I know that's like an easy thing to say, but like that's why I always try to approach my projects where it's like the last time, okay, it didn't work that way. The next time I have to come back stronger, and I have to come back like, okay, that way didn't work. We got to pivot, got to try a different way. It happens to me all the time when I'm making things. It's like, I have an idea for a project. It's a hat. And I have like this hat in mind. It's a very specific kind of hat with this material. And I'm halfway done making it. And I'm like, this isn't looking like how I thought it was going to. The material is pushing back, which is what happens a lot. I use a lot of very unconventional materials that don't always want to move in a specific way. And I have to kind of listen to them because I don't want it to feel forced. I want it to still, remain sort of similar to what it was originally, but just a little bit changed. So if I'm halfway through making this hat and it's not looking the right way, I have to take it off my head and I put it on my foot. And I'm like, okay, now it's a shoe. And that's okay. And I'm going to just now start building a shoe. Okay, now it looks great as a shoe. Or if it doesn't, it's going to be a pair of panties. Like, I start just moving things around. And that's some of my best projects have come out of that, where I was like so frustrated with what it was originally. So like, it's not working as an original idea, but yet then it ends up being so much better as a shoe. So
that's an amazing gift of being an artist. Because like so many crafts are end focused and the end is unchangeable. Mm-hmm. Like if you need to cross a finish line, for example, or you need to look a certain way, like you need it to be the thing, then there's no potential to give the opportunity for it to reveal itself like that. Like I wonder how people can do it when it's not traditional art. Like how can we take this mindset and think it doesn't want to be that? I think we should be able to do that with anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We must do that. And it's hard to like find examples of like how we do that in life. But I think it is just being like okay with having to change things and like be willing to accept that like it's for the best. It's going to be better if I put it on my foot versus my head,
And not taking it personally.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people turn inward and they're like, something's wrong with me because this is not a hat. Mm-hmm. Instead of, this is not a hat because this is not a hat, but it's a shoe. Mm-hmm. And I think the idea of like, kind of like honoring it as like a separate thing than you, that you're like crafting it into the world, but you're not forcing it and it's not you. Mm-hmm. Like, because I feel like a lot of people take things they are mean to themselves.
Yeah. You blame yourself. You're like, my head's too wonky for this hat, Yeah. But it's really not.
We were talking earlier about not having traditional mentors, and you're on such a path that you've made yourself, but really you discovered it yourself. It didn't exist before.
There's not one specific person or one specific time. Like it was this whole thing that started was it started to happen. There wasn't really a blueprint, which, I mean, at the time I was just kind of like trying things and not really sure what I was doing. And it wasn't meant to be a job. It was just a passion project. And it was being very like cheeky and kind of sneaky about it too, because I was working a regular day job, and on like nights and weekends, I was making these really kind of wild projects and taking things from the office that I was working in and bringing them home and kind of using them as my material. And I don't know, I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. And I didn't. And a lot of people didn't even know I was like doing this work for a long time. It was just kind of something that it was for myself, and it was a side project. And I would spend a lot of time in my bedroom in my bedroom in Boston with 3 other roommates that also probably, they knew I was doing something in my room, but they didn't know quite what it was. I'd also ask for everyone's recycling all the time, and they were like, what are you using this for? And I would listen to a lot of podcasts. And I would listen to people talking about their journey in their life. And I would take like bits and pieces of everybody's story and kind of apply those things to like what I was doing, like the feeling of being irreverent or, pushing yourself or this and that. And I would take all these like nuggets of advice and find ways of using it and applying it to what I was doing. And then eventually I was comfortable with like showing my work to people, which took many years. And then I would hear people's feedback and advice in real life. And I think it had to come from within for a long time and from sources like podcasts.
Do you remember certain podcasts you'd listened to or certain advice you heard where you were like, I'm going to make this mine?
Mm-hmm. There was 2 that I listened to a lot, which was the TED Radio Hour by NPR. I still remember like the little jingle noise in my head because I listened to so many episodes. And those are cool because it was like scientists and, a lot of different things about like how our brain works and like why we make certain decisions and choices. And I think like that helped me think a lot about like, when I'm creating art, like who's seeing it? How are people like experiencing it? Can it be more than just like art, and can it create or evoke some type of feeling, like those types of things? And then there was a podcast I loved. It's called Hey, Cool Job by Mary H.K. Choi. And she interviewed some really cool people that have a lot of like design jobs. There was one with Will Welch, who's like the GQ editor-in-chief, I believe. Mm-hmm. And just hearing like his journey and how he got started. And I just really took a lot of this advice to heart. And I really just listened to a lot of like different types of people. And I think it just helped shape what I do. I don't really know, like there's not always like one specific thing that I could think of, but like just like all different types of things, like chefs and artists and doctors,
Well, it sounds like these podcasts were almost like when you have like a soundtrack when you have music playing in the background of like, I don't know, when you're doing an activity and you tap into a certain like vibration, even that like, yes, you're getting specific wisdom, but you're also just surrounding yourself with like the music of, in the case of listening to other people's career paths, of expansion and possibility and bigger ceilings, right? Mm-hmm. Or no ceilings at all. Yeah. And so you maybe could be included in like a whole cast of people instead of being the odd one alone in your room in Boston.
Yeah.
Secretly making your projects.
I know. And like the crazy thing is I could put myself, like I can close my eyes and be back there. And I know exactly what it feels like. I like, can hear the voices. I can like imagine the projects that I was working on. And like, it was such a special time. And that was the thing, is like, I looked forward to it every day. Like I'd be at work and I was like, I can't wait to go home and like go do this job. And I was working like super long hours in my day job. I wouldn't get home till like, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And then I would start I would have dinner and start my projects at like 10 o'clock. And I remember there was one night that I was in the driveway of this apartment and like trying to take a heel off of a high heel with like, I had no tools. I had like, I think a hammer, and I was just whacking that thing in the driveway, listening to these podcasts. And I just remember it like so well, as being like in the dark, listening to this and smashing heels.
Hello, Mentor Buffet listeners. This is your host, Alexi, and I'm inviting you to go to voicingchange.media/mentor buffet and fill out a form to help me understand what kinds of guests you want to hear from. We know the show is about mentorship, and I'm super curious. Who do you want to learn from? Who are you curious about? So go to voicingchange.media/mentor buffet and please take 2 minutes to help me better improve your experience with my show. I'm so excited to keep this show going, interview guests, learn from them, and help you learn too. Thank you.
Do you think that podcasts gave you like a sense of like I'm thinking about like the human voice, like the not just the storytelling, but the like there's people around you.
Yeah.
In conversation.
That still is very true, because I do work alone kind of a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, now I have more people and like team members and stuff like that, but I still work alone a lot and I travel a lot, and I like to feel like I have people with me. And maybe this is like so dystopian and kind of like parasocial in a way, but I find that like, I don't know, I can just like do my thing and have these people like talking in the background, but it's like you're almost like eavesdropping like on a really insightful conversation, and you get to take what you need from it. And I don't know, I just think podcasts are so important, and of course that's why I was like, I have to, you know, get on this one, because this is so cool. And like, you are that to people, like you are that mentor to people that maybe don't have the traditional mentor, or they need that information or that push or whatever it is that they're getting out of it. And I think that that's what's so cool about it nowadays. Like, you don't have to have like a physical mentor in real life to be able to have good advice. I think that's just how I like to work. And I've tried to change that a lot. But I feel, going back to vulnerability, I could feel very vulnerable. If I was to be doing some of my work in front of somebody, I don't always feel like I'm getting it, like really getting into my own brain enough. And it's not to say like you have to be able to work with people. And I'm not saying like don't be a team player, but there's certain things about like what I do that I have to feel a bit raw. And a lot of times I'm like making clothing and I have no clothes on. Like literally, like I have to take off my shirt and like I'm making a bra, or I'm making like an underwear or something like that. And not even that. I mean, I think it might be an HR violation if I start undressing in front of one of my employees. However, like I find I can be a little bit more free and experiment things, and, you know, just connect a lot more with the materials when it's just me. And like, maybe it's still like, when I think about it, I'm like, maybe it's still like the failure thing where I'm afraid to fail in front of somebody else. I don't know. Maybe that's also a thing where it's like, if I'm by myself and things don't work out, it's okay. Like I can keep moving. But if I fail in front of like an audience, like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Have you ever failed in front of an audience?
Sure. Of course. I mean, maybe they wouldn't know that I did. Maybe that's the thing too, where it's like, maybe I like had someone watching me create something and it didn't turn out the way that I wanted. Because I do a lot of workshops and live upcycling. I do a lot of public speaking, and maybe like I messed up on something, or it didn't turn out the way I wanted. And the audience might not know exactly that I messed up. But to me, I'm like, oh, I messed up big time, like whatever. And at the end, it's like, it's fine. And I think that that's kind of interesting, where it's like, you're so in your own head about it, where it's like, if I'm doing a talk, or like I did this one time, I really put myself on display. I had this like vision of doing a live boiler room set, like, you know, like the DJ sets. But instead of DJing, I was sewing. And I just had like a bunch of people around me while I was like making stuff. And I started sewing this one thing, and I'd be like starting a project, and I would like ask for advice on things. Like I would show it. People would be like, yes, no, like change this, change that. And I was like starting one of the projects, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm about to make right now. This is really scary. I have no idea where this is going. And like, this feels really like nerve-wracking, because what if this doesn't work? And then I was like, well, I have an audience here. I got to figure this out, you know? And I did, and it was fine. I don't really even like remember exactly what I made, so it probably wasn't that great, but it was enough to get it done.
Yeah. I mean, it also sounds like you're just aware that there is a process, and you're like protecting that for you. There's like a collaborative part to it, but there's also like a time when you need to be able to like move without reporting on it, and hear and see without needing to like have that conversation with anyone, both like literally and like the conversation people have just by like being exposed to it before it's gone through its meaningful process. And I think it's a cool thing to talk about, because there is a time and a place to like take in information, share your information, and then a time to like have your incubator, have your metaphorical bedroom in Boston by yourself, even when you don't need to be by yourself in Boston anymore.
Yeah. I have a big audience like online, and every project I put out is kind of putting yourself on display. And whether people like it or they don't like it, I'm putting it out there, and I leave the comments on because I love to hear what people have to say about it, but it doesn't always dictate like what I do or what I make. And I think that that's another thing as well, where it's like you have a lot of outside voices and you have to kind of just filter it out and do what you think is the best thing. And that's kind of just how I have approached all of this work, but especially because like that was never the intention, was to have a lot of people watching.
Right.
It was just supposed to be me by myself. And then now I've brought, all these people along the journey, and I'm so grateful for that. But at the same time, I'm always like, when you realize like how many people are seeing some of these things, you're like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah, it's overwhelming.
A little bit, yeah.
And when it's not like why you're doing it, like I think about that a lot with like influencer culture, where it's like there's some people who are like, they're influencers. So their like whole primary work is in the interaction with people, getting feedback, selling things or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like for your work, like you're sharing it is maybe it's somewhat primary, but it's also secondary, right? Like these exist outside of social media as well, which makes the social media secondary work to you.
Yeah.
But it still has this like, it is one of the biggest like stages. And so it's a little confusing. And that you have found a way to like decide that it's like where you'll put your work, but it's not where you'll put your worth is like a really
way to say it. Yeah.
Right, it's like that's a really big decision to make, because it still affects your work. Like it still like has probably an impact on like how people perceive you and what opportunities come about.
Yeah.
But there's like a chicken or egg element of it, of like what comes first.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is also, it's like they're not seeing like the hours behind the scenes. And I always, it's so funny, like what does really well in terms of like engagement and excitement versus like what doesn't perform as well. And like the amount of effort that goes into each one of those things, the like less amount of effort is always the projects that do really well.
That's wild.
It's always like the really fast ideas, like the simplest things. And I get it, because it's like people are simple. They don't want to, lock into some like really specific like material. Then, they're not going to nerd out with me. I mean, there's a small group of people that do, and I'll get to that. But there's, I think, like in general, for the content that people want to receive, it's top line. And that's what I kind of like appreciate that. I'm like, you know what? Like I like to make things simple for people. It goes back to like, this is a material I see every day, and I just see it a little bit different, and that excites me. However, the projects that take a really long time, that like they're hours, they're some of the most challenging pieces. Like I made a jacket out of ice skates recently, and I had to take apart the ice skates, and the blades were sharp, and it was like one of the heaviest pieces I've ever made. It's like close to 50 pounds. It's really heavy. And the comments and the engagement was kind of like, this is cool. Like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. Where's the bread glove? Where's the croissant bra? Like going back to like more of the easy ones. But then any client work I get references the jackets and like, the more complex things. It's always like, that's what ends up getting me work at the end of the day. And so it doesn't actually come down to engagement, because those are not the projects that did super well in terms of like numbers, if you're going to go off of that. So I always think it's really interesting. So I'm like, oh, they're referencing like a really deep cut, piece of my work. And I'm kind of happy that it's still recognized,
Yeah, it's the artist will recognize the artist, and that's like that's the work side of it.
For sure.
That's cool.
I definitely feel like I sit in so many different places on the internet, and mainly being like meme related at this point. Like people memify my work a lot, and I kind of think I love that. I think it's funny, but I'm glad that there's still like people that can recognize like the true craft behind it, and that it's like real and like handmade and not AI and all those things.
Are there artists that you look up to where you appreciate their work as like high level craft?
Yeah. I mean, a lot in different ways. I mean, I have a friend who's like, we do kind of similar work, and I just love the way her brain works. She's so whimsical. Her name's Gabois, and she's a Canadian artist, and she just like, I don't know. She's always been a really cool inspiration for me in terms of like, she also finds really creative ways to use material. She has like just a really good way of like composition as well. So I look towards her a lot. And then I think like Sarah Andelman, who's this amazing person, and she owned a store in France called Colette for a long time. She now is running this series of books called Just an Idea, and I did a book with her. And she's well connected, but in a way that she's not like ever flexing. Like, these are all my friends. Like, she knows everybody, but she's a good connector of people. And she connects a lot of like artists with other artists. And so when I did my book with her, I was like, she was like, is there someone that you would want to write the foreword for your book? And I was like, I would love if Pharrell was to write my foreword. And she was like, we'll make that happen. And so Pharrell wrote the foreword of my book. And I was like, this is so crazy. Like, I love people in this industry who are willing to help other people and connect other people. Like, I see something in you, and let me get you closer to where you want to go. And it's cool because like I'm starting to find that it's sort of coming around where it's like now I'm becoming the person that I see like a younger artist, and I'm like, oh, they should meet this person. Like, that will help them so much. And so it does come back to like a mentorship type of thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you feel as a mentor to these young artists reaching out to you now.
It feels like I'm like, damn, I'm old now. It's just more like, wow, like life happened so quick, because I was just like that young artist that was listening to all the podcasts. And now I do a lot with like schools and students, and I love it. Like, it honestly fuels me. And I think I would be a lot more jaded if I didn't have them around me a lot. And that's what like teaching workshops and working with schools is like probably the most rewarding thing that I've gotten out of my career so far. And I just love hearing like what young people are up to, and also how like things have changed as much as they have in like 10 years since I've been in school. Like, they are like, there's like full sustainability fashion design programs. And like, I don't think that was really that, it was like just starting maybe when I started. And I didn't go to fashion design school, but like just the options that out there. And I'm like, this is so inspiring and so exciting to see.
Do you feel like when you go to these school programs that the students are really present and like able to like meet you as a crafts person versus like thinking about their career path?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
think so.
cool.
Yeah. I think they do.
That makes me really happy.
Yeah.
I feel like when I go back to like Dartmouth or a place, they're all scared about jobs. And that makes me really sad, because you want to be like, you really, like, I'm always really want them to be be present, be where they are. And it feels like there's a lot of fear about, but how am I going to like survive?
Yeah. I mean, there's like a underlying doom and gloom, I think. And it's just unfortunate. And I'm sure you probably hear a lot of young people saying that too as well. Like, when you go back to these colleges or universities and you hear people like rumblings about the economy and where things are going and their student debt, like that always makes me feel so sad. And I feel so bad for them to like start this journey in their career and like already in debt and already like nervous about like what they're going to do. But I think within fashion and design, like I think people just like they have that outlet of like creativity, and I think that helps. And I don't know, like, you know, maybe they're just like excited to be able to make stuff. They're probably not going to end up getting the job they want right off the bat. But I think like being able to be persistent and continue to create. And that's what I always say is like, don't stop like your personal projects, because as soon as you start working, it gets really, really hard to find the time to make like the little creative things that you do in your room by yourself. Like that, it's almost impossible. You have to find that time and the willingness to do it. And I think like I say to them, like, if you continue to do it, because in school you get to do all these different things, you get to take a lot of different classes. If you're in fashion, like you do a lot of sewing, and then as soon as you start working, you're on a computer and you're not sewing and you're doing some type of like pattern work or whatever it is, and that tangible and physical aspect of it gets lost really quickly. And so I always encourage people like keep doing that. Like that's what keeps you motivated and excited.
And it could turn into your whole career, like with you.
Yeah.
Like your personal project blossoming.
Yeah.
I also, with the school stuff, what I heard is, like what I'm hearing too is like in the fashion world, in the sustainability world as well, innovation is like a principle, right? Because it's the assumption is that it's going to change and evolve, right? With sustainability, with fashion. And that's something that I realize is a difference, is like what a beautiful like foundational value to like have going even into that world at all, is like it's meant to be something that what you make probably doesn't exist yet. And so to have that as like a default setting for people is like really cool. And I think that is also a big difference between like the kids that I'll see at a Dartmouth. It's like there's a lot of tracks people are going into where innovation isn't necessarily a given.
Yeah.
Which means that the career path stuff, I was just thinking, I was like, why are they so anxious? Oh, they're anxious because they think they need to be on a path. Whereas in fashion, you're actually supposed to be doing something unique and different. That's a good sign. It's not diverting.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of is the path in a way.
Yeah.
I was in Chile to shoot the Promorph shoot, and I was there with all my Merrill teammates. And my favorite memory from the shoot was we wrapped the shoot. It was beautiful. The sun was setting, and I hadn't run that day. And my teammate Rachel and I was wearing the Promorphs, and I was like, let's just go do a run right now down to the bottom of base camp. So I got my Promorphs on. Rachel's in really good shape. I haven't done a workout yet, but I'm about to try to get in shape. And I do my first workout in Chile in the Promorphs, barreling down this road. We're going from trail to road, and I felt fast. I felt amazing. And this was my first experience in these shoes. And I feel like it was this like empowering moment of like, welcome back to trying to get in shape. Welcome to these new shoes. They're going to go with you everywhere. That was my first experience with Promorph, and I loved it. And the reason why you can go from any surface to any other surface is because the Promorph all-terrain running shoe is super lightweight, really comfortable, and equipped with Float Pro foam and Vibram outsole to give you grip, whether you're on the road, the trail, or somewhere in between. And for a limited time, this is actually a really big deal. You can get 25% off the Promorph. That's really, really awesome. Using the code MentorBuffet25. You gotta do it, people. Like, these are awesome. They're probably gonna sell out. Who knows? I'm probably gonna win some races in them. I don't know. We could match. You must have like a sort of process or things that you come back to in your work. And I wanted to know if you could take me through some of your like creative principles and where they might have come from, whether you developed them yourself out of you needed to, or you learned them from someone. Anything from like your routine to like how you approach your problem to even the kind of words you use when you fail.
In terms of my work, upcycling was like a by accident type of thing. Like I didn't consciously be like, I'm going to become an upcycling artist and I want to focus on sustainability. It came out of necessity in terms of I just needed material and I didn't know where to get material other than like what was in front of me. I get really like stressed around like rolls of fabric. Like it's the same feeling of like a empty, like perfectly blank notebook where you're like, okay, what do I start writing? I look at a roll of fabric and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so stressed out. Like that's so nerve wracking. I always find it really easy for me and natural to take something that already has like seams and pockets and zippers because I'm like, okay, well, it's all here. I just have to move it around to like what I want it to look like. And I don't have to go to a trim store and buy a new zipper. There's constraints already there. The zipper's only X amount of length. There's only one bungee cord in the bottom of the jacket. Now I have to find a way to like reposition that and use it. And I think I work better when it comes to boundaries is like what I've learned. And so that's like a creative principle, I guess, for me would be like having existing boundaries and being able to work within it. I know a lot of people that get like client work that get really stressed when they're like, the client wants this, this, and this. And I'm like, I kind of like when they tell me like, these are the color schemes that we're going for. Or like when I do a collaboration with a brand for like footwear and they're like, well, if we're going to use up all the extra rolls of fabric that we have at the factory, like these are the only colors that we have. Sorry. And I'm like, perfect. Those are the colors it's going to be. Like, I don't want to have to like make that decision of like, oh, what blue is it going to be? Like it already is presented. Let's make the most out of it. And so from there, I feel like that allowed me to get really creative with what I have. But also like, that's when I started like opening up a jacket and like really looking at the inside of it and being like, okay, it has like a mesh lining. And then if I take that out, oh, it has like seam sealing, or it has, you know, some like a factory tag that's like a number that was on it for like inspection, or whatever. If it's a secondhand jacket from like a thrift store and someone's like name is written in it, like I live for that, and I live for those moments. And so like the more I started to do like thrifting or getting things secondhand, that was really when I was like feeling the inspiration to use what exists, mainly because there's so much of it. So that's when I was like, oh, upcycling should just be like my thing, because I feel really strongly about finding ways to use this. So it started as like, let me just take all this extra stuff because I don't know where to start. I also like the risk of cutting something and it not working out is a lot less when it's like a secondhand thing from a thrift store versus that roll of fabric that you probably spent like $60 on. So I think that's like the biggest thing. And then when I start making things, like I said, like being really flexible, being open to like whatever is going to happen with the material. Like if it's a volleyball and it doesn't, you know, if you cut it open and it starts curling back in on itself, it's not meant to be flat.
Right.
Let it do its thing. And that's what I find the most value in my projects is like when I just let the materials happen and I just kind of go with wherever they want to go. And that's when I really use my body a lot, and I find those shapes and I find like movement, and I'm like, okay, the curve of this is the curve of my leg or the curve of my head or whatever. And that's when things just really click. And I love those moments. I love it when like something just magically like is like placed on you and you're like, you just see the shapes like come together. And if there's movement and there's form and it just makes sense, like, I don't know, those are the best times.
I don't know, there's like a harmony element that feels like wherever we are is where we're beginning. There's no like, we're not behind or something. We're where we belong. And I think that's like a really positive way to see like anything. That is a nice way to see the world too, of like where are we and how do we like, I don't know, like a dance, you know, like two people dancing where it's like, you can't, one is not going to become the other person. You need to like find it together.
Yeah. It does feel like dancing, which is so like interesting to me. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't think people think about my work in that way until they really take a look at it. Because I try to be funny and like clever. And I mean, I'm not trying overly to be funny, but I think a lot of the thoughts that I have are just kind of silly and humorous. And like, I try to show that through my work. And I want people to enjoy it as much as I am. And like silly certain things that happen that I'm like, oh, this is kind of crazy. I definitely want to highlight that. But I think the more you really do look at it, you're kind of like, oh, like it does feel more like fluid and fun and experimental. And I don't know, I think it just kind of naturally happened that way. And now that that's the way I design, it would be really hard to do any other type of design that doesn't feel as like forgiving and as open. And I'm kind of curious to see how it evolves like as I get older as well. Like, you know, if I got pregnant, like how I would build clothes around myself, or like if I was, you know, an older woman, like, but it also, there's a level of like inventiveness, but inventions that happen while I'm creating certain things where I'm like, oh, this actually serves a very like interesting purpose. Like maybe this could actually be something like real, but I just make it too crazy that it's like not a real item that is purchasable or whatever. Like I like being able to create something that feels very like, oh, could this help me in my daily life? Like it's almost so out there like that it can't be, but you're like, it rides that line of like, this could actually be a product, you know?
Right. Your North Star is not like to be useful, but it can be.
It can be if you really want to think about it. Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much you are your own muse. Because when you talk about yourself as like the model, and that when you get older, maybe it's going to mature alongside your maturation, whether you're pregnant or just moving differently, or wearing different kinds of clothes as like your base.
Yeah.
You're your mannequin and your muse in a way.
Yeah. And hopefully it doesn't come off in like a selfish way, but I feel like it helps me connect more with me. And sometimes my pieces get pulled for like magazines and it's styled on, you know, a real model or like, you know, someone in like a photo shoot. And I love to see that. I think it's so cool, especially because I'm so used to seeing it on myself, but it feels like a different piece. That's how I can explain it. Like when it's on me versus when it's on somebody else, like it feels like two different things, you know? I don't know.
Tell me more. Like,
I'm going to try to like see if I could pull it out. But like it's worn differently. And I see it like the way that I wear things and shoot things on myself. It's very like I put it on usually on a white background if it's like in my studio. And that's intentional because like when I first started, it was like all the pieces I was making were so like loud and vibrant and colorful. And like I kind of felt like it was a distraction, even if I shot it on like a brick background or like a concrete, like something about it just felt like so there's too much going on. So I started photographing it on white and it really allows the piece to be the star. And my body is literally just the mannequin. And like, that's also a really interesting thing is because I do make a lot of bras and I was like, it's not supposed to be like a sexual thing.
Right.
And sometimes maybe people would take it in that context, but most people don't. And I think that's what's really cool about it too, where it's like, you would think the internet would be like putting it in places that it's not meant to be. But to be honest, I feel like most people are pretty like respectful. It's like, it's about the work. It's not really about the body. You know, I'm comfortable with sharing my body online. In person, it's funny because I'm kind of like, like, don't look at me. So I don't know. It's really interesting how I feel way more confident when I photograph myself in my work versus like just me and being like a vulnerable state where I'm just being photographed without any of my work. But then, yeah, when I see it on someone else, like in a photo shoot, it just like takes a whole other life to it. And it's in maybe like a scene or like a backdrop. And it like just, it feels so different. I don't know. It's hard for me to like explain it though.
Yeah. The part about you being comfortable with it when you shoot yourself is like, that's because that's you as the artist. Mm-hmm. But if you were like out there showing it in real, that would be you as like the model.
Yeah.
Almost, the model and the artist.
Yeah. You know, you have your own personal space and the way you are when you're comfortable with yourself, like in your pajamas and like what you present to the world when you're have to be, you know, in front of a classroom or on stage or whatever, or, you know, running, like there's certain things that change. Mm-hmm. And I think we should all be able to like find our safe space, whether that's like you're creating like something for yourself or like you in your house, like what is that? And like, could you bring some more of that into the real world? And maybe some of it's not meant to be in the real world.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking too much about it.
No, I feel like, I mean, I think it's the same thing as you thoughtfully being like, I need to have my alone time to do my work. I had this space after work when I can do whatever. Like, I feel like what this is like, you know, what works for you. And until something feels like intentional and useful, why would you do it? Like, you'll know it when it feels like it's expanding you in a way. Mm-hmm. And not forcing something. I think a lot of this conversation is like interesting to me because it's a lot about like being present, slowing down and giving yourself the space to like see something that you couldn't see if you were distracted or self-conscious or under the gun, like on timing gun or whatever it is that you felt when you were in the boiler room type situation. Mm-hmm. How do you give yourself the space to like let ideas and inspiration like come to you and you really see things in a different way and then protecting that space and having it repeat and repeat and repeat so that you can go into that environment. And a lot of people, they never even get that opportunity because so much of life is like forced upon us, right? And we don't have that space. The hardest part is doing the work alone. Like for me, training was always like harder than the race. And that's how I knew I was prepared for the race because I should be prepared to do what I'm doing in the race. And so the creativity, like the most creative part to get through to me is the training. You're saying ready, set, go 8 times for 8-mile repeats. And that's harder actually than a race where the gun goes off one time and that's it. They're very different. Yeah. I feel like basically like so much of the work is done alone. So much is preparation. So like if you do all that correctly, then race day is like this performance that you should be ready for. To me, it doesn't even feel like a test. It feels more like a performance that you're like 100% dialed and ready to do. And the hard part on race day is just making sure that none of those like distractions get in the way of what you are already prepared to do, which could be like getting psyched out or eating the wrong food. Like you can do a number of like dumbass shit the day of a race and like mess it up.
Yeah.
That's like freshman stuff. You should be able to like show up and execute it and go into that same maybe like meditative state that you find in training by yourself. I can hyper focus. I can get into like a total zone and just like lock in. And it's like an amazing feeling. And I can do that until my body hits its limit, which has limits.
Yeah. I think it's so cool that you could like lock in like that for these long stretches or fast stretches. Like I think being able to shut things out it's such a cool skill. I don't know. Just feel like fully focus on what you're doing.
But it's not that creative. Like I will say, like it's not. It feels like meditation, where like you go into like a trance or something. Like when I'm really locked in, I feel more like I'm like a meditative robot or something.
It makes me think of like meditative states where it's like you let things like pass through you, where it's like a feeling or a sound or And I took a running clinic one time where the coach was like, listen and hear your feet and smell and like all those different things. And then like eventually like it just, I don't know, you stop thinking about why you feel like it's hard or your leg hurts or you're like overthinking things. Like the more you try to focus on like outside stuff. But then also like when I'm working, I don't know, I feel like that's what I feel like with the material. I'm like, okay, the material's doing this. I'm going to let it do that. I have this anxiety of the client yelling at me. Let that pass through me. Like keep on going through it.
When I guide Lisa, this blind woman, this is better to talk about how I help her. When she's in pain, I try to get her to focus on the part of herself that's not in pain, because the part that's loudest is the painful part. But we have to strategically shift her focus. Like when her legs are hurting, I'm like, okay, pretend you don't have legs and just focus on your arms. Your arms are the only thing, because your arms moving will keep your legs going. And I feel like sometimes in art, there's like a problem or there's something that's annoying you, but there's always water to move in, right? I don't know if within your case, it's like the material is asking to do this. It's not doing that. So let's move in the direction that it's inviting us to. So maybe it's just more about where our attention is and shifting it and like going with what is strong and what is loud in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me something that you learned when you were in this beautiful snow globe, your room in Boston, these late hours after work.
I love how you framed it as a snow globe, because I can kind of picture it in this little like globe and I'm on the floor and it's like magical. I would say the thing that comes to mind is prototyping and like getting things done rapidly and not being super worried about their function and if they looked good. And if I was stapling clothes together and like hot gluing everything, and I had minimal tools. I had minimal experience. I was watching YouTube videos of like how a shirt is made. And I was like, okay, can I do this with hot glue? Will it work? And it kept me like moving quickly. And I think I don't like to get stuck on ideas for too long. I like to keep moving. I like to keep trying things, and I will always go back to it. If it's an idea that's worth exploring more, which a lot of the time it is, I'll come back again and again and again. And I also started to take apart the projects that I would make. And I had to do that out of necessity because I didn't have like a ton of materials. And so I would make my project and I would be like, okay, I like it. Let me take it apart and let me use that for something else. And it also taught me, I think like those early Boston days, like don't get too attached to what you're making. And I still feel that way with my work. Like people would think I have some like crazy archive of all my projects and like, I'm very precious about it. Anytime I have my work on display, people are always like afraid to go near it. I'm like, pick it up, touch it, like mess with it, wear it. Like that's what it's for. And afterwards, I'm okay with like taking it apart. I don't mind. I think it's actually healthy for me to, not be too attached to it. And I learn a lot more the next time that I have to, use the material. Or if I have to put it back together again, like I think it's kind of fun to like reconstruct a project that you've already made, because like you will know more, but also it's just easier. It's like when you're in the middle of like a file and it all gets deleted and it's the worst feeling ever. But then the next time you do it, it's like, oh, I know how to do this. I've done it before. I know what I said the last time, but I will do it better this time. So that's probably like my biggest takeaways. And also just fun. I had so much fun. Like every project I made was like brand new, and it was like an idea that I'd never seen done before. And I was like, I felt like I had like a secret that I was like, oh, like this is so cool.
It's very much like the change is in you. Mm-hmm. Like what you're saying is like, I learned to make this, whatever, this next iteration of the bra. If I take it apart and I build it again, it's not the bra, it's me who made it that is growing as an artist. And I can turn this information and the process that I did into something else or into the same thing again. And I feel like people don't realize like the change is not just what you make, it's in you, right? You are the artist and you grow by making things. It's not just the things.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't have served me to have a whole collection of all these pieces. And I firmly stand on that, because it means a lot more to have the experience, and there's a lot more value in all the ideas that I've had from all those projects that I've taken apart.
That's really cool.
The sound when you pop open a Go Brewing. Sorry, I'm just really thirsty right now. Not to pause in the middle of a beautiful conversation that we're having, but when it hits, it hits. And for me, I've been drinking Go Brewing instead of soda, honestly, instead of beer, and regretfully sometimes instead of water, because I love it so much. For me, I've been drinking it because I don't want to feel crappy, which I feel when I drink beer. And also I like the taste, like genuinely would grab this over kombucha, grab this over often water, and grab this over soda, which is good for me. And you can get your Go Brewing too. You get this flavor, you get chilada. If you go to gobrewing.com/Alexi, you can get 15% off your order. Throw these in the fridge, go run 8 miles, come home, drink one of these. You'll be very happy you did. I don't feel like I need to convince you either. This is just, it's actually really, really good. I love it. I genuinely love it. This is, okay, it's blueberry and strawberry. That doesn't even do it justice. It's like, I would call this tart and fruit refreshing summer day. That's what they should call it. Try it yourself. Tell me about your days versus your nights in Boston.
Well, my days were spent at a computer all day in a lot of meetings. And I really loved I loved the day job. I learned a lot from being in that situation. Like, just being open and hearing a lot of like different perspectives, but there's also a lot of people who had worked in the industry for like 30 years and could, give a lot of knowledge and information. But it felt very routine. It was like you wake up, you go and like you get ready, you get in the car, you get there. And I was spending long, long days there. I was there till probably like 7 o'clock at night. There was also points that I was like literally like living at the office, where I was just like so chained to the desk at points, and not because someone was forcing me to, but because like I knew I had a work ethic, and I wanted to like, I was creatively like just like intrigued by learning more things and being around footwear and apparel and just understanding it. So there was that. But then being at home felt like kind of this, it was like a carnival. It was like a free for all. Like I was like, I don't know, designer Disneyland in terms of like, no one was telling me like, this is what you have to do. Like you can create whatever you want. There's an open brief. Like if it doesn't work out, no one's going to be like, pressuring you to come up with a new idea. Like it's just fun. And I sort of felt like at some point there was like a fork in the road where it was like I could either go down the path of like working at Reebok or staying within footwear or apparel like in a corporate way, or this very uncharted, like unknown experience. So I was like, okay, what is that going to lead to? It was very unclear. And when I left my job too, I did decide to take that route, and I didn't really know what was going to happen. I was really like trusting myself. I was trusting like my skill set that I had gotten up to that point. I was like 24, 25. And I was, maybe there was some like naivety to it as well, where I was like, just, all right, I'll figure it out. Like I've always had that I'll figure it out mentality. And I was really feeling it at that time. And I was like, okay, let's just go for it. And honestly, I can't imagine like what it would be like not to have gone for it. And it's not to say that like working in a corporate job or working like at a day job, like you have to give up all your creative passions and stuff like that. But I think at some point, if you do have that feeling, like you want to know what that door is, you want to open that door. And if whether it works out or it turns into something else, like there was no questions left on the table. Like I definitely decided this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try it. And it turned into so many things that I couldn't have imagined. Like my business is completely different than what I thought it was going to be in like the best way.
What we're so afraid of is the unknown. And what you're saying is if there is an unknown, which is essentially adjacent to curiosity, you've got to follow it.
Yeah.
Right? Because this other path is like something where you could see maybe what you might even look like in 30 years. You had peers there and people there that you could see what it could be. So there's less mystery. Mm-hmm. And on this other path, it's like a complete, it's like walking into a theme park that you actually haven't even fully been to yet when you're stepping into it in a career-y way.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is that?
I think if you have any of that like curiosity or spark in you, listen to it. That's all I can really say is like, really, really listen to it. And like the people that truly are like wanting to explore that, like you will then. Like I think that's just the thing. It's like if you have that, then you have it. And then there's people that, they don't necessarily have that, and that's okay. And like that's their path, and that's fine. And I think for me it was more just like I had these voices and this light where I was like, let me follow it. I have to see what that's all about. And there was no regrets. And I was also like, I don't know, when you're young, there's also just a level of being like, okay, if it doesn't work out. And I was like, I was so delusional where I was like, I'm going to quit my job. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just go get another corporate job. Whereas like the job I had wasn't like an easy job to probably get. Yeah, I was just so comfortable with being like, if it doesn't work out, I'll find another way. I'll work a different job. I'll work 2 jobs. Like, I just want to know what this is all about.
Mm-hmm. I'm imagining someone like driving their car, listening to this and being like, do I have that? Like, do I have that voice? And like how terrifying it is. Because I remember like, I don't know, were you scared at all? Or were you, you were scared.
Super scared. I think about it, it's like the things that I was scared about are like not like they were like the minuscule things. I was like, I don't know how to like start an LLC.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, that's what I was scared about. Yeah. But in reality, I was like, the things that I should have probably been scared about, I was like, I'm fine. I have an idea. I'll make it work. Like, I'm creative. Like, those are the things that's like, there's a lot of creative people. There's a lot of really good designers out there. There's a lot of stiff competition. But I wasn't like thinking about those things. I was more like, how do you find your own health insurance when you work for yourself? Like google.com.
Yes,
like,
the like life logistics.
Yeah, like those types
How will I do
things.
my taxes?
Yeah, I was like, and I'm still like, how does any of this work? But you just figured that stuff was like, you can look it up and it's fine.
Yeah.
But you can't look up, truly how to be creative. If you have that, then like you have that. And I think most people, they do. It's just you have to find that voice and you have to be listening for that voice. I think that's the bigger thing. We all probably have it, but it's like whether you decide to listen to it or not. And it gets louder. And the louder it gets, that's when you start to like, you got to follow it. And that's what I'll say is like, I did both for a while. I worked at Reebok and I did my personal stuff for a while. And it was very much timed. Like I was like, I'm going to do both this was my side project. This is my day job. I wouldn't be able to do the side project without the day job because I wouldn't have the money.
Yep.
And I'm going to do both until one outweighs the other. And then
Yep.
I'm going to follow it. And my personal work started really like, I mean, people started to see it, but also like, I felt more confident about it.
Yep.
I started to get, inquiries about, oh, could you make us a piece or could you do this? And that's when it became like a conflict of interest for my day job. And I was like, once I was like, okay, I have enough work that I think I could like rely on that. That's when I made the jump. I wasn't too early I timed it well. And
Yep.
that's my biggest suggestion. If you are thinking about going like on your own or freelance, like if you can do both for a while, I think there's something to be said about like an all-in mentality where it's like, I'm just going to focus on this thing. I didn't have the financial resources to be able to just go all in. So I had to be able to work that day job. And I'm glad I did. I also took a lot of the learning. So like the coworkers that have had the 30 years of experience, I listened to a lot of what they had to say. I learned a lot of different job functions like marketing and development and finance, like all those things that have helped me now within like creating my own business. And so once you can kind of like, all right, now the personal work is really like my focus, that's when you go.
I really appreciate that you said that because I totally agree. I feel like when some people see people who've made these big changes, they think they just quit their job and jumped ship. And like, that's like how it looks from like a really bird's eye view.
Mm-hmm.
But the like juggling stage of like, you need to pay your bills. These are like really real things.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally relate, like 100% relate as like an athlete building a career in the arts where a lot of the artistic work starts out unpaid until it is. And then it always takes longer than you think. But what you're building toward is that inevitability and you'll know it when you feel it. But I think it's really cool to talk about the like, you have to pay your bills and like support yourself. And there's nothing shameful about supporting yourself.
For sure. And that was something I was very like adamant about. I was like, I want to make this like a real thing and I want to be able to like invest in it. And I was trying my best to save as much as I could when I was at Reebok to be able to have somewhat of a safety net. I think that's also like a responsible thing to do. I mean, granted, it wasn't much of a safety net. When I really think about it, I'm like, wow, that's kind of scary that like I decided to just do that. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Like at some point you do got to trust fall. And if it's going to work out, it's going to work out. But I think the people that, if you're in that situation, that's what I'm like, you're going to find a way. Because if you've made it to that point where you're like feeling this like, okay, I could go here, you have options, you're prepared. Like you have done enough to be able to get to that point. And you just have to trust yourself and be smart about your timing. And I can't stress enough about like not jumping too quickly.
Yes, I do too. I like feel so and I'm so happy we align on that because I'm always like people need to know like what their basics are. Like what are your needs? And can you take care of your basic needs for like a runway of time that will give you the space to pursue this like vague ambition essentially, right? It's kind of this like it's
the starving artist thing is like not glamorous. Like it's not going to bring the best out of you. I think living a life that feels very like below your means, like that kind of stuff, that's okay. But like struggling and not being able to get the best out of yourself is also like
there's a threshold.
You
need your basics taken care of so that you can not wake up every day with the first thing on your, like you basically need a runway where you have your basics, but your basics don't need to be like, I've also met people that are like, well, I heard to make it in Hollywood, you need one facial every other week, you need this. And I'm like, I think I've had like 2 facials in my life. Like I was like,
that sounds like a lot of upkeep.
That's what I mean is there's like a threshold of like, yes, you don't need to eat like, fast food every day. You need to like eat well to like fuel your beautiful brain and your mind, but you don't need like a private chef at age 25. It's like there's a range.
For sure. And anyone that makes you feel like you need to they're not like the person you should be getting advice from and that's usually probably coming from the internet. Any like young person that like has been successful like early in their 20s and it like looks like everything's perfect and great. I can guarantee you it's probably Probably not.
Yeah.
I think that's where I can imagine being tricky too, because like so many people have like made a career online at like a young age now. And I also just think there's no timeline on things. And also like when you think about like art and design and like I don't know, there's people that could be a flash in the pan, and then there's people that are in it for a long time. And sometimes the grind that's like the best part of it. And you have to just ride it. And like the longer you keep going and pushing yourself, like the more longevity you'll have in the end, where people that get a lot of success and things happen really early on, like maintaining that, it's a hard thing to do. So I would just say like, I don't know if it's completely relevant to this, but I do think like, don't like look more towards yourself and before looking at like what other people are doing and kind of like their journey, because you're not seeing the whole thing.
Totally.
But also it's like the more I do, the more work I'm creating, the more it leads me into other spaces. So like maybe my future is in architecture or making like large scale pieces for hotels. I don't know where I just pulled that out of.
Yeah.
But I'm creating these one-of-one like art pieces, fashion related, which has led me to more like furniture pieces, which is happening right now where I'm making, it started with reupholstering cushions and that kind of stuff. But then I was getting curious about like frames for chairs and wood and things that are less malleable materials, things that I can't put on my body, things that are now have to be sturdy enough to hold someone's weight. Then I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, what about like a table that's next to the chair with a lamp on it? What if I create a lampshade? What if I create the actual lamp? And that's sort of leading me now into this other direction that could be like spatial and less wearables and more into like interiors. And then if I'm like, okay, well, I want to go bigger with this, like maybe I create some type of like piece that's more of an experiential piece for a gallery or for whatever. And like, it's just the more like work you do and the more experimenting you do, it's going to lead you in these places. I'm like, this kind of feels right. I've made a lot of clothes and now I'm starting to feel like furniture is like a new exciting feeling, and exciting is good. I'm going to follow exciting. And then that leads you to your next thing. And that's how you just know things are right. I don't know if that really answers it. I also think when it comes to like work and like brand work, a lot of the times I can get good vibes or I get bad vibes, and I kind of have to figure out, like, decipher what projects are the right ones and what ones could be, it might not seem like it's the right one, but then maybe I can find a way to make it the right one. Like, there's just different ways, but I think it all really goes down to like gut feeling, trusting yourself, the voices. Maybe I just hear voices all day long in my head.
Do you?
Of like following things. I think so. I had inner monologue for sure.
You do?
Yeah, big time.
Is it it's your voice?
Yeah, I think so. It's really hard. I get really like stressed out when I think about like what goes on in there, because I'm like, who is it? Is it me talking to myself, or is it? I heard you on one of your podcasts talking about it's like your older self and your younger self like talking to each other.
But that one is like a more conscious one that I'll create because it's like a relationship I haven't developed very strongly. It's not the one that runs no matter what.
Yeah. That one just feels like she's just really out there. She's just thinking of like crazy stuff. And then I think I have like another one that's a little bit more like realistic business. I've always been a little bit business oriented. I've always had like a sense of like, I want to create, something. I always liked making money, and I definitely am a creative first, but I was always like very interested in like creating a business or having like
being a working artist.
Like I was like down to like, I mean, maybe it's unpopular to say as an artist, but like I wanted to be able to get paid for the things that I do. Yeah. And I think there's definitely like the business Nicole in my brain. And then there's very much the artsy Nicole that's thinking of like really ridiculous ideas. And like somehow they have like a nice relationship, and sometimes they fight, but that's okay.
I find this conversation to be so like, I feel so aligned with you, because I also think it's like, the dream is to be able to make whatever is truly coming to you and be able to find it, as you talked about earlier. And the ultimate dream is to be able to get paid for that.
Yeah.
Because we live in a world that we need to survive in. And it would be a dream to spend our lives being supported and to be able to do that with more of our time. And I think that's like a really reasonable, like, American dream we have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it does take thoughtfulness. It does take an awareness of like the world you're in to find what is my place? How do I become indispensable in the world that I'm in? Which requires paying attention to the world that you're in and realizing when to pay attention and in what context and when to shut it out. And that's probably another thing that people get confused about is like, is it read the comments on Instagram or is it pay attention to like what's going on in like the artistic industry, you know?
Yep.
And I think probably some of this, I'm just thinking of the adorable 25-year-old listening to this is like, slow down and pay attention to what you are paying attention to and what you think is important versus what might actually be useful to pay attention to. And patience. I think like I'm hearing a lot of patience from you and process and wonder and betting on yourself. I think you and I have like this little bite inside us where I was like, I would pick me for the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it feels like you'd pick yourself for your team.
I had a feeling you and I would have
this
similar,
is rad.
like it's very like serendipitous in that way. Cause I feel like we have a similar mindset and I love that, like betting on yourself and like, you know, you can do it. And like, you know, like pick me because I'm gonna be the one that does it, you know, like
totally.
There's a artist that has like a quote that he always uses. His name's Tom Sachs, but it won't fail because of me. And I always feel like that. I feel that so hard. Like,
say his name. We'll play.
Tom Sachs. He's and I just feel like he puts it on like notebooks and things like that. And I think of that quote all the time because I'm like, I feel that way.
Really good quote. It won't fail because of me.
Yeah,
I 100% feel that way. Yeah. I feel like my greatest limiting factor is time.
Yeah,
and I think that, like you said, it's still up to us to be responsible and work the time so that we're progressing in the way that we like intend. You know what I mean? Versus whatever. In your Boston days, it was the work versus the personal project time. But I think time is always like this thing that I'm up against, you know? Yeah. And also like the willingness to say when you have a weakness. Because it's like, I'm not right for every single job. Yeah. Every job is not right for me. For sure. And I shouldn't play every single role on a project, for example. And so I think it's also recognizing like when it is a fit. Because I see a lot of people in like probably every world, but Hollywood in particular, where people just are so desperate that they'll say, I can do anything, when it's like, well, like there are better people for this role.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a matter of like, can't I do it? And it's hard to say that because I don't think everybody feels that way. I think people really struggle with their contributive confidence. And if I had to say, and I want to know if you agree or not, where that confidence comes from, I think it comes from seeing myself do hard things.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself, you have got to do, and you have to do things that you're not sure you can do or that you haven't done before. And that's how you earn that confidence.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with that. And I think recently I started doing a lot of public speaking and speaking in front of very large crowds, like way more people than I ever would have thought. And I surprisingly really like it. And I was so scared to do it at first. I think that's a very rational fear that most people have, is like public speaking in front of people, because you're afraid you're going to like fail, or you're afraid, I don't know, you're going to get up there and get stage fright. Yet somehow every time I get on the stage, it's just like a wave of like confidence comes through me. And I like the feeling that I get now of being like a little bit scared, a little bit nervous before. But when I finish, I'm like, I did it. I did it, and I feel good. And I'm like so proud of myself that I did this thing that I know is difficult. And it fuels me in other ways and other situations where it's like, oh, I shouldn't be scared to do this, because like I spoke in front of 10,000 people in real life. Like I can do this other thing, and I can do this. And like the more challenging things and the more difficult situations you put yourself in, like the better you're just going to keep getting and getting.
Yeah. And it almost has nothing to do with I can speak. It has to do with I can anything. Like, because if you can do this, you can
Yeah.
do other things. I used to run, right? Because we wanted to go to the Olympics. You want to run this time, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people exercise because they want to look a certain way. But lately I've been like, I just feel fucking awesome. I feel good. And I was like, oh, this is like genuinely because it's for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like doing the hard things, it's not about the like, I can deliver on it's not about people getting the hard thing out of me. It's about me getting the whatever's inside me. It's an intangible benefit, and it makes you just feel so confident and like you have your own back.
Yep.
Like being in life and being like, I've got my back.
Yep.
I can handle it. It's a different way to exist. I want everyone to feel that way because it feels like you're just not as, you get more out of relationships too because you don't lean on people for the wrong reason. You don't need someone. You get to enjoy the pleasure of another human without feeling like you need to get something from them. You can actually be present with them if you're not so needy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I feel like you can feel it in other people too. Like if someone has a need other than being present, like if they want, this is like a recent thing of if someone they need social gain or they need financial gain or they want sexual attention or there's so many things that someone could need before just taking you as you are.
Yep.
And when you're around those energies, I can sense it too in other people. And I'm like, this isn't the same type of experience. And I'm like more and more like not wanting to be around that stuff.
I could have a whole podcast probably about that. I love that though. I don't know. I feel like we're very aligned in the way that we think about this. And I think when people ask about like success and like how you get to be successful, like I think like that would probably be like the response is that like betting on yourself and like really truly like knowing that you could do it. And I think that that's like the biggest thing. It's such an easy, simple like way to say it, but actually doing it and living it is a lot more challenging. And if you're able to do that, I would be surprised if you didn't make it, you know?
Yeah. It's basically tasking people with taking on digestible challenges as much as they can so that they would bet on themselves. Because you're not just asking someone to bet on yourself with no data.
Yeah.
You are betting on yourself because you've seen yourself do hard things.
Yeah. It's such an athlete mindset though. And I love that. Like, I don't know. I think it's a mindset, but I feel like it's the most applied to athletes, I think. And I think like creatives and athletes, that's again why more of these things should be connected.
Yeah, you're right.
Because like there is more similarities, I think, than we realize. The similarities come within those types of things. Like an artist and a professional runner both have to be very confident in themselves and bet on themselves every time, or else, you know, it would be a really hard life for either one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so rad. Wow. I adore you. It's really cool to like, I just like don't get to meet that many people where I'm like this, like I'm like so aligned on that. It's so cool because it's it's really cool. It's very cool to like talk to you about this stuff. You just want people to find their own path with these same like general guardrails and they're not guardrails that like our parents give to us. Really, or I don't know, maybe yours too, but I was like, this is just like things you figure out if you have to. And I think that's why like I don't regret not having like financial or connective support from my family. I'm like, I didn't have it. Sometimes I would be like jealous of people who did, but I was like, the good and bad news of it is that you can figure it out. And if you do, you get that invisible muscle called confidence.
Yep.
And you don't just get that if everything's handed to you.
Yeah, we feel the same way about that. And I think it was always like, I want to make it because I want to know that I can make it. I wouldn't want my parents to like pay for something
but you wouldn't, like, it wouldn't be real.
It wouldn't be real. And I don't know, maybe that's coming from a place of like, I don't know, I need to prove something, but I don't think it is. I think it's more of like, I know that I can do it. Why would I like need someone else to pay my way or like do this for me. I think that there's certain things that like, of course you need support and love around you to be able to make those things possible. But like, I think being able to do it yourself it just feels so good.
Yeah, it's a confidence and a happiness derived from watching yourself go from point A to point B, not from just getting to point B. Mm-hmm. It's that seeing yourself do it gives you the feeling inside of confidence, of happiness, of whatever those feelings are you're talking about. They can only be earned.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, that's what people don't realize is like the journey is not punishment. Wherever you start is wherever you are. Mm-hmm. And you can just move forward. And I love going back to your thought of just keep moving when you talked about prototyping. I love that idea of prototyping, by the way, for people who are not making physical objects. Mm-hmm. Because what if someone was having writer's block and they're like, I'm just prototyping. Like, it doesn't matter if there's tape here. And I think that could like lift a lot of the pressure people have, because prototyping is a very kind word. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of equivalent words in other fields of prototyping.
Yeah, but it can be applied in so many other ways. Like if I like writing, you just get whatever's out of your brain, whether it's applicable to what you're trying to write or not. Just
prototype,
get it out. You like literally type.
But
but like everything, I don't know. I think it could be applied in any industry, any situation, and like. If you don't do anything, if you don't get it out of your brain, it's just going to stay in there and it's going to fester. And it's like, you might as well just get it all out and then work with what you have and sharpen it and keep evolving it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like so obsessed. I was like, I wanted to be like, so what's wrong really? Because I'm thinking about the 25-year-old again and I'm like, okay, so what's wrong? And I want to be like, nothing's wrong. Just keep listen, like try to take out the idea that something's wrong.
Yeah. I wonder why that's such like the mindset. I feel like it's like your 20s, early mid 20s too, where you're just like, everything's wrong, instead of like framing it where it's like everything's right, everything's going on the right path, this is the right path. You're like questioning the path and everything around it.
I think they have a difficult relationship with an unpaved path because they've only maybe been on a path. Mm-hmm. So when there's no
and the path has been short so far, they haven't had that long of a path to be able to like look at past experiences and make decisions. Yeah.
So they might think something's wrong just because something's different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When it's like, if we could just make more normal this state that they're in, then maybe nothing is wrong. Maybe they're at like the exact curious interval that any human goes through when they're at that stage.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. I mean, I guess everyone always says that. Like, as you get older, you get more confident, you have more of an understanding, you have more purpose. And like, it all makes sense. It all makes sense of like, the longer you're on Earth, the more experiences you have, the more like data you have to fall back on and be like, okay, this is why I feel this way. And, you know, just trust. Just trust.
Yeah, I love it. If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.